Tinashe, a beautiful singer. She's more of a young, more. She's part of the more young group, just before millennials. I would say mid to early 20s, and she had a few hits or whatever. But she's getting a lot of publicity because, excuse me, she's getting a lot of publicity because of a interview that she did with The Guardian. It's a website called The Guardian, and I believe they're based in the UK. I could be wrong, but anyhow, I read that article, and the article largely was talking about how there's a lot of cliques, and there's mainly two fan bases in the States. Now, when she was talking to them, to kind of telling them about her situation in the States. And she was saying that either you're part of the Bayhive or you're part of that Rihanna, Team Rihanna. Either one or the other. Now, that's largely true. If you're not Rihanna, if you're not Beyonce, you're kind of a non-factor as far as the fan base goes, because those are the two strong American pop stars, and everybody else kind of gets treated as a one-hit wonder or a solo act. It doesn't really matter how much talent you have. If you don't have that look, you kind of get ostracized and put to the side. So there was even like funk when Adele had won an award, and it was a lot of people. I mean, you had black and white women just upset that Adele won, I believe, the album of the year or something, because Beyonce didn't win out. It was so much outrage because of that. So Adele, an international pop star, was catching hell because it was like, how dare you? How dare them give you the award when they didn't give it to Queen Beyonce? So there is that thing where it's either you're Beyonce or you're Rihanna, or otherwise you just don't exist, or you kind of get tossed to the side. Now, I've seen that with Carrie Hilson when Carrie Hilson was coming up, who was very talented, very beautiful, but due to the politics of the industry, she never kind of had that machine to put her out, push her music, and I don't believe she really had the machine that Beyonce had. Now, Beyonce's married to Jay-Z. She has a celebrity factor. She's very talented, beautiful voice. She does a lot of dancing. She just has that it factor as far as being a star. She's always had it. I mean, from as far back as the 90s, when you look at Destiny's Child, what they've done in the early 2000s, she's always had that star factor. Maybe it was a positioning of Matthew Knowles, her father, whatever the case may be. But I just always believe that Beyonce is a star. She just was born to be a star. Some people just have that it factor. But Carrie Hilson is very, very talented. She writes songs. She produces songs. She's done a lot of work with Timberland. She's done a lot of work with a lot of other superstars or people that sing. And she kind of gets thrown or just unrecognized. I won't say thrown under a bus, but unrecognized. And a lot of times Beyonce fans tend to have this scorn towards her that's kind of unwarranted, and it's kind of ridiculous. But a lot of times people in the industry will do things to kind of flare up and start beefs, like things that the fans don't really see behind the scenes, like, oh yeah, could you sign my autograph? And it'll be a cover with Beyonce on it, and they'll give it to Carrie Hilson, like, could you sign this? And if you don't sign it, then oh, she has beef with Beyonce. So they'll do stuff like that to kind of rabble rouse and flare up beefs and stuff. And it's really about creating this energy and creating these beefs to get headlines and clicks. So with that being said, let's get into it. It's mainly about colorism. Now, that's the reason why Tinashe got ripped into shreds. She got ripped into shreds because she spoke on colorism. I want to read the direct quote. Don't want to kind of go off topic. I want to just stay on topic. Now, this is directly coming from I'll read one paragraph. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read a paragraph of the article from The Guardian. Tinashe's mixed race heritage, which was used, quote, as another example of why I was different, end quote, during those difficult school years, also remains an issue. Quote, there's colorism involved in the black community, which is very apparent, end quote, she says carefully. Quote, it's about trying to find a balance where I'm a mixed woman, and sometimes I feel like I don't fully fit into the black community. They don't fully accept me, even though I see myself as a black woman. That disconnect is confusing sometimes, end quote. A shrug, quote, I am what I am, end quote. Then she goes into Rihanna, the Rihanna fan base. That she gets into the Beyonce fan base. So that's really why the backlash is kind of hyper. Why it's blown up really bad is because anytime you mention those two people, you're going to get the attention of those fans. But what she said was, I don't fully fit into the black community. Sometimes I feel like I don't fully fit into the black community. They don't fully accept me, even though I see myself as a black woman. That disconnect is confusing sometimes. I am what I am. Now let's dissect that. Her not feeling welcome into the black community is a direct effect of this whole "you're not black enough" type of deal. See, this is the whole situation with the tragic mulatto. What she's saying is what a lot of mixed race or mulattoes, how they feel. They often feel like they have this dual identity. And I'm going to get into the colorism. But often, biracial or mixed people from the African descent or African diaspora, where you have, and she has a father that's that's directly from Africa, and she has a mother that's I believe either Dutch or Swedish. I don't quote me on that, or but it's from the Eastern Hemisphere. And her mother and father, her father is African, and her mother's a white person. So she kind of sees herself, she's grew up seeing herself as her mom, just like who is a white woman. She kind of sees herself as at times she sees herself as white, but when she looks in the mirror, she sees a black woman. She says, I identify as a black woman. So really wasn't that crazy or that critical. But when she says they don't fully accept me, there's this kind of thing where you're not black enough. You're not black enough. If you're mixed and if you're going through school, there's this kind of thing where, oh my God, you have a white mom. Oh my God, you're white. Is the kind of thing. Like you're white. You're not black enough. You're not black enough to be blackety black down, hip slang, talk the talk that black people talk, know the hip hop words and all that stuff. And you're not white enough to be Saved by the Bell Zach, Kelly Kapowski, full blown white. No matter how white you act, you'll never be accepted as a white. No matter how black you are, how black you act, you'll never be accepted as a black because you have a white mom, you have a black daddy, or vice versa. So kind of what she said was somewhat true, is that yes, there is this colorism in the black community. Now, when she said they don't accept me, I'm believing that's coming from the that's more so coming from the more so the women, as far as women and the sisterhood. A lot of times when she goes on the internet, she probably sees the comments of, wow, oh wow, that's what they think of me. Like people say, ignorant Negroes, coons and stuff, they say stuff on the internet like, oh, she's not really black, she has a white mom. Her mom looks like Olivia Munn. And so how the hell is she saying that she black when she got a mom that looked like Olivia Munn? Not that her mom looks like Olivia Munn, but I'm just saying, people will use a picture of her mom and they'll be like, oh, okay, she's not really fully black. She doesn't see things the way we see things. She kind of has half of that privilege, because automatically we think that, oh man, all white people, they come with this sort of privilege. And they do, in their own little way. But we kind of see biracial people as not really having that black experience, because you figure, oh man, they kind of have a white mommy or a white daddy, so they kind of don't see things the way that we see things. They don't view racism the way we view racism, because why? They have white uncles, they have white grandfathers, they have a family line of people that are completely white as snow, that may have bought them Christmas gifts, treated them good, didn't treat them too bad. They were like, wow, they treated them just like they were part of the family. Right? So how can they really view white people with the same way that black people view white people, when they have direct family members, cousins, that are white? And how can you see things? Because you'll see a lot of things that black people point out about white people that may be wrong, and you'll see a lot of things that white people say about black people that are completely wrong. And I think that's where this whole dual identity of the mulatto, where it's a tragic mulatto, is like, I don't really know. I don't really like the complication of race, because it's complicated. And I think that's what Tinashe is ultimately saying, is that a lot of women don't accept me into the sisterhood or sorority of blackness. And that may be true, right? But that's not 100% all the time, because you got to remember, there have been a lot of artists who were biracial, like my man Tariq said. You have Mariah Carey, you have Alicia Keys, you have who else? Mariah Carey and Alicia Keys. These are Grammy winners. These are just world renowned. These are just singers that are just, world class. So it's not so much of a thing where you can't be a star just because you're biracial, because the biggest rapper in the world right now is biracial. We have Drake. That's another guy. He said, Drake is huge, right? He's a biracial guy, part of the thing what a lot of black people don't really like Drake or have this jealousy about Drake is that it's kind of like, hey, you know how to act around white people. No. Okay, sorry about that. But you know this thing where you know how to act around white people and you know how to act around black people. You have this dual identity where I know how to act around black people, I know how to act around white people. So Drake is a master of that. You can see that when he hosts Saturday Night Lives or award shows. He's kind of the master of playing off of knowing what white people like, knowing what black people like. There's rumors that if you go to a Drake concert, that majority of the people that are at Drake concerts are white people, because he's crossed over into that mega star. So it's not necessarily that if you're biracial that you can't be a mega star, or you can't be accepted into blackness because black people claim Drake, and you know, like it ain't no, like, you know, Drake can do whatever he wants to do. He can do no wrong because we love Drake's music. He makes great music. So that's not really all the way valid what she's saying. Now for women, that may be one thing. If you're a light-skinned girl, you're a girl that's fair-skinned, or just fair-skinned. I'm not even saying biracial, but just fair-skinned or just a little bit light, you're going to get into some fights because there's going to be a lot of women who are dark-skinned that feel like, hey, you get the benefit of all the guys liking you. Now, I'm pretty sure Tinashe, she's a pretty beautiful woman. I'm pretty sure throughout high school, she had a lot of guys on her team, right? A lot of guys, a lot of black men. We have this thing where I can speak on behalf of black men, not all, but majority. I would say 51% have this thing where we like women who have European features, and that's been taught to us from slavery. You know that the slave master always loved the mulatto girl. You see, the mulatto woman was an object of affection. That's like, wow, you know, though they're better than white women. So that's kind of been handed down since slavery, that the lighter the skin, the more prettier the woman. And you'll have more men go after a woman who's light skinned, even if she's not as attractive as a woman who has a darker complexion. You'll have guys go out of their way to go after the woman who has a lighter complexion based on her skin tone. Not necessarily about her beauty or anything. They'll just be like, man, she's hot because she has lighter skin, or she has fair skin. And that's kind of the thing, that I don't really understand, where she says I'm not really accepted into the black community, because men, especially black men, that's like their fetish is like a mixed girl or a light-skinned girl or a fair-skinned girl. It's like they call them red bones. Like, man, I just got to give me a red bone, right? It's a lot of guys that you see a celebrity, right? How does his wife look? Next 9 out of 10 of these celebrities, who do they marry? When you look at basketball housewives, most of these women are mulattoes or women that have fair skin, right? They don't really go after a lot of athletes and a lot of these entertainers. They go after these exotic women with these exotic mixed race. So I don't really understand where it's not really coming from the black man, okay? Because there's a lot of black men who chase women who have the Eurocentric features, European features. So that kind of just was like, Now, from a music, I mean, as far as let's get into the converse of that, right? I'm not going to even get into her music because I think her music is okay. I think she can sing. She's all right. I don't really think that she's really made that type of hit to get that type of, whether it be her songwriters, whether it be A&R, whoever it may be, that she needs to get a better team, or she needs to get better producers, and she needs to keep finding out that formula. I read a book by L.A. Reid that talks about how he helped different artists create these big hits. So maybe she needs to get around somebody that is capable of helping her make those type of hits. I don't know what it is. Okay? So, all right, so the converse of that. All right, the converse of that is there is a lot of colorism in the African American community. But that type of colorism happens more so where you're not really accepted is the darker complexion. It's a darker complexion people. And what's crazy is yeah, it's more so with women than it is in men. Because you can see a guy that's completely dark skinned. I mean, black as purple, but the guy keeps his physique in shape. He keeps some good gear on him. You know, he keeps some good gear. He keeps maybe has a nice car or whatever the case may be. Doesn't really matter for men. Yes, men will get joked on. You will get bagged on if you have dark skin. If you're a person that has dark skin, you will get clowned. You will get harassed throughout high school and more so middle school. But middle school, high school, you will get clowned because you have dark skin as a male. But they're more rough. I mean, it's more pervasive. It's more sick towards darker skinned women. When we talk about colorism is more directed at the darker skin, the darker complexion woman, because the darker complexion woman is often seen as just, you can just hear it in conversations. People won't directly say it, or some people will directly say it. And when I say this in the black community. This way you see a lot of dark skinned women happening. They so-called happen. A lot of attractive dark-skinned women, they go outside of the race because other races may find this attractive because, it's kind of a fetish. As I was speaking to my wife, it's kind of a fetish for other races to capture a black woman. It's like, wow, I got me a black woman. You see, so to somebody else from a different race, them getting a black woman, that's like, I'm winning. It pretty much doesn't matter how she looks. I have a black woman. I got away with a steal. I got a black woman. It doesn't even matter how the black woman looks. I got one. So a lot of times the dark-skinned women, they end up going outside of their race because majority of their life, they've been getting clowned. Oh, your hair is nappy. You're so dark. You hear it from your mom, or not so much your mom, but you hear it from your aunts. You hear it from your cousins. You'll hear it from your grandmother, and they'll be telling you stuff as a woman. They'll be telling you stuff like, "Oh my God, you need to, you need to stay out the sun. You're getting black, or you're getting dark, or." It's a lot of negative, nasty things that get said towards dark-skinned women. Yeah, being dark is almost akin to being ugly in the black community, and it's not just in African American circles. This is worldwide. This happens in the Latin community. This happens in different facets of melanated people, different portions of melanated people. Sorry for all that tapping, but this happens with all races. I mean, you could break it down from Latin to African to Asian to, I mean, all melanated people. Australian. The darker the melanin, the more discrimination that you get within your own race. Right? If you're a darker Cuban, you're going to get mistreated over somebody who's a lighter Cuban. If you're a darker Dominican, you're going to get mistreated over somebody who's a lighter Dominican. You see, it's always this thing where we have this colorism. It's not specific in just the black community. This happens in the Latin community as well. You have dark Mexicans that are kind of get treated like, you're not, they'll just make little nicknames about them in Spanish. And the ones who are light skinned or who have green eyes or blue eyes, those are the ones who get celebrated in the family. Oh, this is a weta. This is a wedo. Right? So, I digress. But dark-skinned women face a lot of the ugliness, the pervasiveness when it comes to colorism. It's like, oh, don't date you a dark-skinned woman because they're this, they're that. You have some men who make jokes about dark-skinned women. They're always the butt of the jokes, dark-skinned women. So as a dark-skinned woman, you probably get tired of that and you say, you know what? Damn all this, man. I don't want to have a dark-skinned child because I've been treated like trash my entire life. So why would I want to have a child that gets mistreated the way I've been getting treated? So I'm just going to go with somebody else from a different race and have me a biracial kid. So that way they won't have to go through what I will go through. Right? Not really thinking about this type of stuff that, say, Tinashe is going through, where they have this dual identity, where they're just trying to be themselves, figure out who they are as a person, because we all don't know where it's. A lot of us get off into our 60s and 70s and don't really know who we are, but you have somebody like Tinashe who's like trying to figure things out, trying to figure out what kind of artist she is. Right, so now she figured she knows how to sing, but she has to figure out what type of artist she's going to be. And not only that, she has to struggle with her identity, which a lot of mulattoes struggle with. But you don't think about that because you're like, look, I don't want my child going through what I went through as a dark-skinned person. So this colorism that she speaks about is very real, and it does exist. It's just, it never gets really talked about because it's kind of seen as a thing like, well, what's tougher, colorism or white supremacy, right? Of course, white supremacy is the main evil, but that doesn't mean that colorism isn't an evil. Colorism is an evil. It is an evil that's often kind of taboo in the African American community, where it's this inner racism, right? Where you've seen this with Precious, the movie Precious, right? It's just like, oh my God, look at Precious. She's just the worst. She's overweight. She's dark skinned. Her hair is this, and she got it's all of these burdens that a dark skinned person has to deal with, right? So a woman who's dark skinned, her beauty standards, the stuff that she has to go through, she's like, man, I have to go through hell to make my hair appear this way. She may get weaves, or she may try to go natural and do her natural hairstyles or whatever like that, but she's constantly getting crapped on. So what does that lead the woman who's dark skinned? Where does that lead her to? Right? She's going to start getting into feminism. She's going to start getting into stuff where she's hearing people who look like her to tell her, look, You know, it's not like this. It's not like that. You can have pride in yourself. So, my main thing is to avoid all that, and for us to get beyond this. But you got to have honest conversations about colorism, and that really nobody's having about colorism. Okay, my dog's just going crazy. But that concludes my video on colorism. Drop a comment below. You guys tell me what you think. Was there anything that I missed? Am I crazy? Am I going? Have I went out on a tangent a little bit too far? You guys, thank you for being patient. It's going on, what, 30 minutes? 31 minutes. And I'm out. Peace.